Well, this is a special one. We're excited here at Josh of the Elevate Podcast. We're having a small interview because, you've told me in the comments multiple times, Josh, we love your work. We love Jasmine. We love Moose on the Loose. We love all you guys. You guys are great. We love the work you're doing. Well, there's also other people who are doing even more awesome work who are on the ground, on our campuses, in our Canadian culture, asking questions that are just generally interesting to ask. And we are having one of those groups on with us who is a blossoming, starting out YouTube channel here called Unify Canada, led by speaker Sarah, her sister Elisheva, and as well as their brother Elijah, who does the lights, the cameras, and the action. We are so happy to have you, Sarah, and the Unify crew. How are y'all doing? Grateful to have you.
Great. Thanks for having us.
No problem. It's a pleasure. Obviously, right now we have Sarah on the screen, but the crew is behind the scenes, feeding her answers, making sure she says the right things. No, I'm just kidding. But we're super excited to have you on. Tell us what you're about and what you guys are currently doing, what your current goal is at the moment.
Yeah, so the primary place for us to do our groundwork is on the university campuses, especially in Southern Ontario. Our goal is to see more students think more conservatively, because right now university campuses are such liberal places. They have they're basically inundated day and night by these liberal ideas, and they don't hear the other side. So our goal is to be the other side on these campuses. And right now what we're finding is that there's a lot of university students who are really moderate in their views. They're not totally sold on the liberal idea, and they want to hear the other side. So right now there's been a lot of good feedback as far as that.
The question I do have for you, because I know you guys are based out of Ontario, where have you been? What universities have you been to? What campuses have you joined? And where have you been at this point?
Yeah, so the closest place for us is University of Waterloo. That's one of the biggest ones in Canada. We've also visited University of Toronto, McMaster University, Western Ontario University, Guelph. Well, Guelph is a fun one. That's super liberal town. And then also Wilfrid Laurier University. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So you've been kind of around the loop there down in Southern Ontario. So I know you said Guelph. Guelph's interesting. I know I've had my day working on the U of T campus back when I was a university student. And it's a bit of an interesting culture down there. I'll ask you this first. What has it been like? What was it like working on the U of T campus? And then to back that up, what's that in comparison to what you experienced at Guelph?
So Toronto is just an interesting crowd. They seem to be a whole lot less willing to accept an interview. So we went there, we spent 4 or 5 hours on the campus, only got 4 people that said yes to an interview. And that time on any other campus would be 13, 14 interviews. So that was definitely an interesting thing. And yeah, we didn't meet too many conservative people who even wanted to talk to us. But yes, it was pretty much a liberal town there too. And Guelph was a little more open to interviews, but exceedingly liberal. The vibe was much more liberal than on any of the other campuses, pretty much.
For sure. And we'll make sure to link your channel here and people can watch the first couple of videos. You're not someone who's barraging people. You're not getting up in their faces. You're actually very kind and very inviting in a lot of ways. And you're definitely not me in terms of being brash. So there's really not a whole lot of excuse I find for people to not stop, aside from they just, someone stopping on the street with a camera. I can understand that's intimidating. What do you think is the real reason of why people just aren't interviewing with you?
That's an interesting question. Part of it is the attitude towards media and cameras. It depends on the time of day when you would go to a campus, but especially during exam season, they're very busy and they'll give a good excuse. It also depends on the crowd. At Waterloo and say McMaster and Hamilton, it's a much more open crowd. They're much more willing to stand in front of a camera, and especially at Waterloo, there's a lot of funny people who are totally open to social media and that kind of content, but it just depends on the crowd, I guess.
For sure. Has anyone ever been hostile towards you?
No, there have been points where it could have gotten hostile.
Yeah.
But I've kind of just learned to deflect a little bit.
Seems to be a strength of yours, I'll be honest.
Yeah. There's been a few that are like extremely liberal and like totally bought into like the,
For sure.
I guess, the progressive ideology. But yeah.
Understood. And so I genuinely am curious because one of the videos that really stuck out to me was your latest one where you asked people and quizzed them about the history of Canada, which was fairly fascinating. The one that I admittedly, first off, I thought it was a great video. The questions you were asking, I was like, oh, these are deep cuts, deep cut questions. These are fantastic. But the one that really kind of like was a normie question, which honestly kind of threw me off the most, was asking about the Underground Railroad. And a handful of people didn't know what that was. What is it like when you're kind of having these interviews and people give you answers you just kind of take you off guard? Like, how do you keep your composure and kind of plow through to make sure that they don't feel judged and then withdraw themselves from the interview?
Yeah, it's difficult, especially when they say some really funny things. I guess the most important thing is just to keep a straight face because you don't want to humiliate them, especially to their face. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've had some people say some really very strange things, and I don't know, I guess it's practice to keep a straight face and just nod and like say, oh yeah, definitely, like more taxes, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Or something like that.
For sure. Well, that was the thing was, admittedly, again, I don't want to like totally, she seemed like a nice young woman. But it really did throw me off when you asked about the Underground Railroad and the response was, yeah, it's the railroad that goes across Canada, right? And I was like, oh, like I have to ask, that wasn't a plant, right? That wasn't like you're trying to make content. Like that was a real person.
Yes.
Gee.
Yes, that was real.
So it goes back to my question when it comes to this type of content. When it comes to the editing process, what's that look like for you? Do you feel like you're finding yourself trying to craft a narrative, or do you really just go out, get your interviews, and you just kind of put out the highlights of those interviews? You don't try to essentially craft how anyone looks.
Yeah, we just literally go out there and film the content and ask people. And yeah, what you see on our channel is basically the highlights, the interesting things or funny things that they have said, mm-hmm. or just me being surprised that they said something good and truthful.
Right. That's nice. And I'll be honest, we had a conversation off air. We officially met actually in Toronto at a conference last week. And I think the one thing I'll say about all three of you is you're incredibly bright. You know your stuff. You're very knowledgeable. And quite frankly, I could see that being, I don't know, a little intimidating for someone who's getting approached on the street. Not only because it's not like you come up and saying, well, I'm awesome. However, the way you carry yourself shows that you're someone who is very bright and knowledgeable. That goes to my last question here, or second last, I should say, is what is driving you as siblings? Like why, like I know you kind of touched on it at the beginning, but really what is the overall goal of this channel? What is the overall goal that you're aiming for to try and see if, fast forward 3 years from now and you're over 100,000 subs, 250,000 subs, whatever it may be, what is the goal you're trying to accomplish here in Canada with this channel?
The whole idea of Unify Canada is we want to educate young people, especially youth on these campuses. Like we see how liberal they are, and we've looked around on the internet. There's not a lot of people working specifically on the campuses. And like, especially earlier this year, it was like this moment, like, oh, in the States, they're having this wonderful push for conservative values and like limited government and free speech and all that stuff in the States. And there's no one doing it in Canada. And we just kind of looked at it like, well, if there was someone in Canada, we would definitely work with them, but there's no one. So we just have to do it ourselves. And it's a big thing. It feels like a really tough task to kind of undertake, but yeah, we're gonna have to sink our teeth into this thing and really get to work because there's just so much that could be done.
100%. The work is cut out for you. And that was one thing, admittedly, through the election. One of the emails I received the most from people is, Josh, we need you to get on the campuses. We need you to be out there. Unfortunately, during the election this time around, I was expecting my first child. So I really didn't have the opportunity to get out there as much as I would have liked to. However, different time, different place, I would have loved to have made it happen. So I want to put this out to you. I've been talking on this channel a lot. I'm thinking Mark Carney's expiry date is probably a year, 18 months. When we come back around to another election, I think all of us got together. We hit some campuses together and make this happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of a dream. We want to get, especially the MPs that didn't win their seats. We would love to like hold meetings and have students like come up and ask the questions, like especially the stuff that really like matters to them, like the housing market or jobs, stuff like that, and have people with like the solutions to this stuff come and give their solutions and win voters. That's the dream. And yeah, we just got to reach more students with a message like that.
Last thing we'll put out to you. We'll give you 1 minute. What's your message to the Elevate audience?
Okay. So the university campuses are very liberal, but the students that I'm meeting on these campuses are actually quite open-minded. And I have spent hours talking to these guys, and they love to pick my brain and go like, okay, what's your solution to climate change or the housing market or jobs, right? And they are hungry to learn, and they like, especially young men, they'll stand there and literally pick my brain. And having a political conversation is not tough, and it can actually be quite respectful and calm. And we need more people talking to youth. And if someone has a young adult, high school student, or a university student in their family or in their acquaintance, I would encourage people to talk to them and tell them, like, give them the facts, talk about the liberal government and how bad they're doing and how we actually legitimately need a change. It's time to talk to these youth, and like, we need to mentor the next generation.
And I'll throw one last thing, because something you just kind of, when you hit there, I'm curious of, is, a lot of kind of the conversation here, the rhetoric has been liberal campuses, liberal ideology, boom, 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 boom. Are you open-minded to the idea of like, the day comes where the establishment switches ranks and the conservatives are doing some sketchy things? Are you more so about exposing liberal ideology, or exposing just whatever is taking over conversation in the town square at the time and pushing back on those narratives?
We want to talk about the things that are harming people. So yeah, we're not like totally hardcore conservative party people. We're more like for principles like free speech and freedom of expression and limited government. Those are the things we kind of try and push. So it's not all about the Conservative Party, and we're certainly not affiliated with them. So yeah, it's more like calling out the things that are hurting society.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us, and we wish you luck going forward.
Thanks.
Well, that was Unify Canada, folks. They are an awesome bunch of homies. They are amazing people. And if you want to learn more about them, feel free to subscribe to their channel here, or else you can also look into our description down below and go check them out. I suggest you do it. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.